It's coming! Sholmes's cry pierced through the thick wall of fog around us. Wisps of vapor flowed over the pistol as I cocked it, and I waited, breathlessly, in the stillness. The silence lasted for what seemed an eternity, until, at last, it appeared. From the shadows of the cloud, an enormous beast sprang out upon us. A hound it was, but not such a hound as any mortal has ever seen. Its eyes glowed with a smoldering glare. The whole of its ox-sized body was outlined in white-hot flames. Its rumbling pant and hideous howl, so terrified was I that I began to tremble with fear. "Look well, Wilson," Sholmes declared, gazing upon the mystical beast. "For this is the diabolical hound of the Baskervilles."
Hello, breathers and banshees. My name is TB Sky, and welcome back to The Great Ace Attorney, where it's time to start in on the final case of the game. It's true, there's only 5 of them in this entire game, which kind of surprised me because it feels like there's a lot of stuff up in the air that hasn't been wrapped up yet. There's some characters that have been introduced very briefly, but just who haven't shown up again at all. Like, for example, like Shakespearean actor we encountered in Mr. Natsume's lodgings, who seems a little bit too colorful and important to just be like a random NPC, and yet one has to assume that he'll show up here somehow. Who knows? But let's get into it. Our first 2 months in London passed by in a flash. In that disconcerting courtroom experience we were first thrown into on the day we arrived in the country, and in Sosuke-san's terrible ordeal that had followed closely behind, we had emerged victorious. However, there then came an abrupt end to our opportunities to appear in court. Which was hardly surprising, of course, since I was nothing more than an amateur, an unknown student of law from a faraway land. So, life in our little office was very quiet. That is, until it was shattered one day by that fateful telegram. 15th of April, 9:13 a.m. Naruhodo's legal consultancy. That morning, I was woken by the unreserved knocking of the door by the telegram boy. But after he'd gone, Susato-san's behavior became very obviously strange. Susato-san? Yes! Is it time to leave for court already? Let me see. What case is it today? I don't think I'm scheduled to defend anyone at the moment, am I? Oh, no, of course not. How silly of me. But I think Iris said that she would make us breakfast this morning. So, shall we go down to Mr. Sholmes' suite? Yes! Iris makes the most delicious breakfast food. She does, doesn't she? And once our bellies are full, we can leave for court in fighting fit form. Let me see, what case is it today? Here we go again. Are you okay there? So, what was it about? The telegram that was delivered this morning, I mean. Oh, a telegram? I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, but you're not gonna get away with that. Well, I didn't think I would. Actually, don't give it a moment's thought. It's nothing. Nothing interesting. Boring, in fact. It was just a boring old telegram. That's 3 times now that she's tried to fail to convince me it was nothing. I promise that I'll tell you about it at some point. All right, I understand. I suppose Sosuke-san will have arrived back in Japan by now, won't he? Yes, I should think so. He left immediately after that terrible ordeal. Which would mean that he should have completed the voyage already, albeit just a few days away. fortnight ago. We had that very long telegram from him, do you remember? Complaining of seasickness. But by and large, it seems the voyage has been going well. Is something wrong, Naruhodo-san? I was just wondering, what might have become of Sosuke-san had he stayed in London, that's all. You mean, as regards to Lord Van-Seeks, the Reaper? Yeah, I can't help but wondering if seasickness would have paled in insignificance to that case. The Reaper, who I hope we get some answers about. What is it they say? That no one who stands in the dock can be saved from the Reaper, right? Like the way that nightmarish trial ended on the very day we arrived in London. Even 2 months on, the cause of that dreadful fire is still a mystery. Yeah, but at least Sosuke-san's safely out of the country now. Presumably, that means that the curse of the Reaper can only take effect within the confines of the city of London, perhaps? Even if that's the case, it's little comfort. I have a terrible sense of foreboding. If the legend of the Reaper is to be believed, it would mean that he wields the sword of justice himself. Come to think of it, I wonder what he's been up to these past 2 months. Surely not wielding that sword against more acquitted defendants. No, I don't think so. Apparently Lord Van-Seeks hasn't appeared in court once since our last encounter. Oh? Yes, since Sosuke-san's trial. He's withdrawn from judicial service again, it seems. Really? Just like before, when he wasn't seen in court at all for several years. So it's just me who's had to face. Oh, so it's just me who has had to face him in his recent spate of trials, then. Just my luck. I wonder if luck doesn't come into it. Sorry, what was that? Oh, nothing. Never mind. Ha. Ha. Anyway, let's examine. Cleaned up nicely around here. So this is the tea set that Susato-san brought with her from Japan. Let's hope she hasn't noticed me slipping sugar and milk in my cup when she makes it. It's just so bitter. Tea is a drink to be enjoyed, Naruhodo-san. You really don't have to force yourself to drink it, you know. I don't like to see you screw up your face so. I mean, it would be very rude to turn it down. Well, that spade has been here since we started renting the place. Oh, that's not a spade, Naruhodo-san. It's a shovel. No, shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade. No, spades are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a shovel. I don't want to dig a hole for myself, so let's leave it. Okay, so there's an ongoing thing in Ace Attorney games, where where the characters will encounter a ladder, and then they'll have a long argument about whether it's a ladder or a step ladder. And it's not funny, but it's one of those ongoing jokes that they've just been doing in every single goddamn game since the beginning of the series. And every Ace Attorney game seems to have its own little thing, where they have this ongoing argument about what constitutes, like, the one thing or the other: shovel, spade, ladder, step ladder, etc. Ah, the Daruma doll I brought with me from home. Still with only one eye colored in. I said I'd color the other one once I've won my first court case here in Britain, but... But you have won, haven't you? Twice, in fact. Because I feel as though I'm still lacking as a lawyer. I tell you what, why don't you color the other eye in once you think I'm a proper, fully fledged lawyer? If you insist. We've only been here in London for about 2 months, but my desk is starting to look a little messy already. What, it takes you 2 months to make your desk messy? Oh, wow. Takes me frickin' 2 minutes. You could tidy up once in a while. Susato-san, I always say, making a mess is a small sacrifice to pay for being able to further your studies. And time spent tidying up is time you can't spend devoted to the same cause. And time spent at ridiculous arguments is time that could be better spent on some simple housework. She wins. But I'm supposed to be the lawyer here. Just do the housework, you dumbass. It's spring at last, and the weather is warmer now. But I love the smell of the fire and the steam rising from the kettle. Oh, would you like some tea, Naruhodo-san? Thank you, Susato-san, but I'm alright for now. With the green tea Susato-san makes me from time to time in Iris's unique herbal infusions, this place is paradise for a true tea lover. Green tea is such a wonderful accompaniment to British tea cakes, don't you think? Are we done here? It's all just flavor, like nothing here is important, usually. Yeah, this must be the telegram. Let's see. No, you mustn't look at that. Not under any circumstances. All right, I won't. I'm sorry, Naruhodo-san, but you can be very mischievous at times. Then put the telegram away if you don't want people looking at it. Oh my god, they did get an aquarium. We were rather lucky to find that old aquarium left behind here. The prawns we put in there are doing rather well, and the anemones too. It's a wonderful invention, isn't it? The sea behind glass inside your room. Another example of Great Britain's greatness. Having to clean it out and change the water isn't so great though, is it? Do you know, I've never seen inside your room there, Sasato-san. I've never even peeped inside. I should think so too. A young maiden's private chamber is a place of bittersweet secrets, you know. Whatever you say, young maiden. There's onions hanging out. Is that all? Seems to be all. "15th of April, Sholmes' suite. Morning, Runo. Morning, Susie. Good morning, Iris. Oh no. Oh no. Iris? What is it, Runo? What is that terrible noise? It sounds like a cat being strangled. Ah, yes. You noticed that, did you? Of course he's terrible at it. Hurley isn't in the best form this morning, it seems. Oh, look at him. Hello. Hello, Mr. Sholmes? Good morning. A good morning to die, perhaps. Has something happened, Mr. Sholmes? You look miserable, and the way you were playing the violin before. My analytical mind is dead. Music is dead. The world is dead. Damn this blanched existence. That's all it is, my dear fellow. Nothing of consequence. I'm afraid I don't understand. Well, Iris, isn't it time we ate? Some dry toast and insipid coffee for me, if it's not too much trouble. Aw, precious baby. Oh, look, it's Wagahai. Good morning, boy. That must be some sort of tiny door for cats to use. But how did it get there? Well then, everyone, time for breakfast. Oh, wonderful. Let me help you, Iris. It would indeed be a fine day to die. I knew something looked different. Something's missing from Mr. Sholmes' desk. Is it the mess? I do delight in his misery. Look at Mr. Sholmes' desk. It's completely clear. Isn't that enormous machine usually on it? We can never hope to understand what goes on in the great detective's mind, Mr. Naruhodo. Why, next time we're invited, we may find he's vacated the entire suite. That's scarily plausible, actually. Did it get repossessed or something? Well, there's all sorts on these shelves. Chemistry apparatus, books, papers, and lots of things I've never seen before. It's all heaped up so high, I can't help feeling that the whole lot is going to topple at any moment. Oh, it's such a charmingly untidy collection of paraphernalia, isn't it? It just looks messy to me, like my desk. But you, Mr. Naruhodo, must learn to tidy up after yourself. No favoritism there, then. The fire's burning comfortably in the grate again today. It's a very different feeling to a Japanese hibachi somehow. Oh, look at that photographic print of a lady displayed on the mantelpiece. Could it be... Yes, it must be. It's the woman. Oh, how exciting. Is that supposed to mean something to me? The woman. The woman being... Okay, so this is a Sherlock Holmes thing that I do know. I'm not that familiar with Holmes stories in general, so like there's probably a bunch of references that keep passing me by. But the woman I do know. That's Irene Adler. And a very interesting character she is, because Holmes, Jesus Christ, Sherlock Holmes is a misogynist. Like, he's very explicitly misogynistic, to the point where he's such a misogynist that it's even unusual for the time. Like, Watson comments on, like, Holmes is, like, unusually, like, he's weird about it. Like, not just misogynistic the way that all men are in this era, but he's, like, weird about it. He's like a little too much about it, and Watson comments on it. But with Adler, he underestimates her because she's a woman. He underestimates her, like, her intelligence, her planning, her foresight, and her ability to manipulate him. And as such, she manages to get away scot-free with doing a rather embarrassing thing to a bohemian noble person, blah, blah, blah. She's not a murderer as far as I remember, but, like, she's a woman who manages to elude him, to surprise him, and to exceed him. And that very much changes him as a person, because after that he begins to, like, becomes a reminder to Holmes himself that he has grossly underestimated women as a whole, and that he has not given them the respect that they're due as human beings. And, like, she's the woman because she is the woman. Like, she becomes the new example for Holmes about what women are capable of. And so a lot of people have sort of read it as like, oh, it's the only woman Holmes ever loved, but, like, no, that's not really the vibe I get from it. The vibe I get from it is, like, the woman as in, like, essentially, like as a holotype for all women. Like, as a reminder to himself not to let himself be blinded by his bigotries. There's also, of course, the queer reading, that Holmes, like, because Watson comments on Holmes being, like, unusually, like, oh, women, well, I don't want to hang out with women, I much prefer the company of men. Like, that is sort of code. And that's sort of meant to imply that Holmes is what you would call a confirmed bachelor. A friend of Judy, as it were. In the sort of vernacular at the time when, like, homosexuality, being gay, wasn't really understood as a thing that you could be. You had this category of men, like, who nowadays we would probably call gay, but who just simply shunned the company of women, and, like, who sort of took advantage of the misogyny of the day to say, like, oh, women, who wants to hang out with women? They're all vapid and stupid, and they don't know anything. I much prefer the more real and true friendship and company of fellow men, which was sort of a way to be stealth at the time, as I recall. And so, like, some scholars have had a queer reading of Holmes, that you could see Holmes being this confirmed bachelor who much prefers, like, not that he has, like, necessarily a romantic interest in Watson, but that he prefers the company of men simply because, like, he's found this convenient cover to say, like, oh, I don't want to get married, women are stupid and dumb, and I just want to hang out with men my entire life. It's a thing. Anyway, Adler sort of plays into that because she is, like, the moment when he's sort of this reflexive misogyny that he's picked up as a cover, as a beard, gets challenged, and he's sort of like reminded, like, to see women as more than just, like, these distasteful things that he wants nothing to do with. Anyway, that's a long digression all the way heck out of into... Yeah, and by the way, queer readings, not to say that Arthur Conan Doyle intended it. It doesn't really, like, that's not really what a queer reading is ever about, what the author intended. Of course he didn't. He's, like, straight cis Victorian middle class, upper class guy. This guy. But that's one way to understand the literature, like, outside of the context of its writing. Huh, looks like that huge metal chest is being used as a table for iced tea and coffee. It seems very sturdy, with an equally sturdy lock. Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't go around opening things. I always have to keep an eye on you, don't I? You're very mischievous. How did you come to that conclusion? These are all mementos of Mr. Sholmes' past cases, I think. If he'd been involved in my case, I wonder if the beefsteak from La Carnival would be on display here. A mystery shoe, a curious hammer, some mysterious dancing men, a bust of Napoleon. Ah, what an entrancing collection. It looks like an untidy assortment of junk to me, rather than like what's in my own shelves. Well, you really ought to learn to keep your things in order, Mr. Naruhodo. No favoritism there at all. Mr. Natsume's cat seems to have settled into his new home, then. Oh, yes, and I've become very attached to little Waggy. It would appear that his previous owner is completely forgotten to him. Cats are unfeeling creatures, their mews as empty as the hearts of the muses. Aww! If Mr. Natsume had no intention of taking Waggy back to Japan, I wonder why he kept him in the first place. I expect he would have taken him if he could. But pets are strictly forbidden aboard steamships in our experience. Well, not so forbidden. And for good reason. Terrible things can happen if the rules of passage are not obeyed. Well, I don't mind, because Waggy is adorable. Yes, he really is. Oh yeah, what about the door? I don't remember seeing that tiny thing in the main door before. Where did that come from? Oh, you notice you're observant, Bruno. Look, I use this. It's my latest invention. What is that? I call it the cat flapper mat. Gosh, a machine for making doors just for cats. That's right, it can make a cat flap for a little furry friend like Waggy in seconds. And it can do it in any door at all, no matter what it's made of. It's very powerful, you see. Oh, wouldn't it have been quicker to just make the cat flap rather than making a machine to make the cat flap? Well, yes, maybe, but now I can make cat flaps anywhere I like. Oh, I think it's wonderful. You must make it one for us in the door of our office upstairs, Iris. She really knows how to come up with unconventional inventions, this girl. Let's see. What's over here in her corner of the room? Come to think of it, I haven't seen Iris doing much writing recently. But there's a paper already set up in the typewriter. Look, as if she's about to start. That reminds me, when I mentioned that Iris was in the process of writing a full-fledged novel, Mr. Natsume was most impressed. Ah, yeah, Mr. Natsume. That's what I'll be doing too once I'm back in Japan, he said through tightly clenched fists and teeth. That's a charming little white shelf, and full of charming little bottles, too. But the contents of them aren't quite so charming, it seems. Science is the future, Mr. Naruhodo, you can't deny it. I'm saving my money so that I can buy some chemistry apparatus as well. Oh, chemistry, takedown throws, what diverse skills you boast, Mr. Sato. As useful as they are, I'm not sure that my throwing skills are worthy of inclusion in that list. I think they are. They're pretty amazing. Iris's beautiful tea set is there on the table as usual. A cup of one of her special herbal blends always helps me to relax when I'm feeling the strain. The English pastime of tea has many similarities with our own tea ceremony customs, don't you think? It's the idea of hospitality behind it. That's the essence of tea. Someone who knows math, let me know what those equations are. I'm sure there's something. This is where Iris notes down her ideas, isn't it? Let's see, what does it say today? Ah, the Boscombe Valley Mystery. Oh, how intriguing. It must be the title of Iris's latest work. Oh my, I wonder what fantastic tale awaits us. Susato-san looks like an angel, but I bet she's dreaming of the most unsavory crime you can imagine. Looks like an angel, does she, Naruhodo? And that seems to be all that there is. Let's chat to Holmes. You seem to be very unhappy this morning, Mr. Sholmes. What's happened? It used to be the case that, in my hand, this violin sung like the dawn chorus. Its melissonant tones would make flowers bloom. It would? But now, muses are unamused with me. The goddesses of music have thrown me over. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? For hours I bowed, for days even. Through the night I have endeavored, to no avail. That sound, my tone, is lost. That brilliant, clear, unwavering tone, gone forever. No more recitals of unbridled emotion. Well, you haven't been practicing much lately, have you, Hurley? Don't worry, I'm sure it'll come back to you in time. Heed my words, Mr. Naruhodo. The goddesses of the arts are fickle. One day, they bestow genius on a man. The next, they unmercifully withdraw it. Oh, dear. Ugh, why is this happening to me? If they take the turn I have for the violin from me, what is left, for pity's sake? What is left? Deduction, perhaps? Isn't that what you're known for? Mr. Sholmes, I don't like to pry, but your desk looks rather empty today. Ah, well done, Miss Sato. Your observational skills do you credit. Oh, no, Mr. Sholmes, they pale into insignificance when compared to yours. You'd struggle not to notice, wouldn't you? You mean Hurley's great analytoscope? That's at Windybanks now. Sorry, it's at Windybank? No, Windybanks, the pawnbrokery. Pawn? What? You mean you've pawned that enormous machine of yours? It has some considerable value, you see. Quite undeservingly. But isn't it a very important machine for your work? I do wish you had consulted us if your situation had become so desperate. I should have gladly passed what little income I have to you. Dear madam, things are far from desperate. But the pawnbroker has your wonderful machine. How can it be anything but desperate? Making use of a pawnbrokery is quite ordinary here in London, I assure you. It is? Oh, it is? It doesn't sound ordinary at all. It would seem that neither of you fully understand how pawnbroking works. Oh, what's to understand exactly? What did you mean when you said we didn't fully understand how pawnbroking works? To the people of London, pawnbrokeries are akin to banks. Banks? On Mondays, merchants relinquish their finest jackets and trappings to their pawnbroker of choice. With the money they receive in return, they are able to trade happily through the week. And then on Saturdays, they go to recover their things using the money they've earned. I had no idea. This has been a fascinating lesson for us. Everyone does it, you see, especially people in inner London. And should they have money to spare, they would purchase another fine jacket. Not to wear, obviously, but to pawn, should the need arise. Oh, how ingenious. So whenever you have something that's getting in the way, we leave it at Winterbanks, you see. A pawnbrokery can be thought of as an extremely secure vault. Who would have thought that even pawnbrokers are different here in Great Britain? Of course, you have to watch Hurley with it.
Sometimes he pawns things he really shouldn't. Don't you, Hurley?
What does it matter? The world is dead to me now. Oh boy, someone's got a depression.
Oh, what was that?
Waha guy? What was that?
Oh no! Our guy's tangled up in your violin. I think he thinks it's a toy.
Oh, what's he doing to it?
Oh dear, Mr. Sholmes' precious violin.
Why should I care? What? I shouldn't be surprised. If the cat is a more accomplished musician than I now.
Mr. Sholmes really isn't poor spirits, isn't he? Well, anyway, I'll put it back where it lives, shall I, Early?
Out of the cat's reach, if possible. Maybe we should assess the damage. Can we assess the dam? There we are. So, this is the violin, is it? It's a Stradivarius, one of the finest violins in the world, made by the renowned Italian luthier, Antonio Stradivari. Oh, I see. It doesn't really look like anything special to me. I happened upon it covered in dust, languishing in a pawn shop down a nondescript back alley. The broker had no idea of its value, so I was able to purchase it for a mere 55 shillings. How honorable of you. And until today, it has been my faithful companion in every great Paganini-inspired performance I have made. I ask you, is there a reason to live in a world devoid of music, to tolerate this blanched existence? No. There is none.
Mr. Sholmes?
What, dear madam, what? My thoughts are preoccupied with fancies of release from this dull routine.
Well, it's about the violin. It looks very different to normal, wouldn't you? Don't you think?
What do you mean, Mr. Sato?
Oh, Circe's right. Yes, the tone of the wood's completely different. And that's not all. I'm sure there was no crack there before.
Wait, it's not even the right size, is it? What is this?
I'm terribly sorry to have to tell you this, Mr. Sholmes, but that instrument isn't a violin at all.
Then what?
I believe it's an entirely different instrument called a viola.
What? But what? What?
Oh, Mr. Sholmes, are you all right?
You're right. You're quite right. This isn't my faithful Stradivarius. So what, pray, is this piece of stringed flotsam? Not your faithful performing partner, then.
Ah, I see what must have happened.
You do, Iris?
This is just a simple mix-up.
It sounds like Iris might be able to tell us exactly what's happened if we ask her. So, presumably, Sholmes pawned his violin at some point and got the wrong one back. What did you mean by a mix-up, Iris?
Well, you see, this violin... Sorry, this viola, I mean... was at Binderbank's until last week. At the pawnbroker's.
Not Mr. Sholmes' beloved musical partner. There is a proverb from the East with which you are no doubt familiar, my dear fellows. Always let a beloved child travel.
Oh, yes, indeed.
So you sent your beloved violin to the pawnbrokers in the hope that it would experience personal growth?
Oh, what a wonderful idea.
Last week, I pawned my great analytoscope in order to release my precious instrument. But it would appear that Mr. Winterbank mistakenly furnished me with this tawdry fiddle instead. Or maybe he recognized that it was a Stradivarius, and somehow, Mr. Great Detective with your powers of deduction and observation, you failed to notice the switch! But my ears cannot be deceived by the hollow timbre of this piece of timber. No, but your every sense was deceived by the fact that it just had strings. Pshaw, a fine state of affairs this is, and why I always say, Mr. Naruhodo, never trust a pawnbroker. They will try to fiddle you every time.
But earlier you told us that you could think of a pawnbroker as an extremely secure vault.
Come, Mr. Naruhodo. Dilly-dallying will get you nowhere. Sorry? Crunching your toast with that vacant aspect, fressening your coffee so obtusely. Are you not a little embarrassed by your own conduct, considering the urgency with which we are faced?
We must visit Mr. Winterbank's brokery at once. Isn't that right, Mr. Sholmes?
Precisely, Mr. Sato, without a moment's delay.
But I haven't finished my bacon and eggs!
My dear fellow, surely you do not still intend to crunch your bacon with an increasingly vacant aspect, to fresh your egg ever more obtusely. All right, see no more. Let's go then.
Don't worry, Runo. I'd be happy to heat it up for you again later.
Ah, thank you, Iris. As it happens, I'm rather curious to see what a British pawnbroker looks like. Let's start at the street. No? Okay, nothing to see there yet. There will be in later, presumably. Pawnbrokers it is. 15th of April, Winterbank's Pawnbrokery. So this is a British pawnbrokery.
Oh my, there are all sorts of tools and contraptions in here that I've never laid eyes on before.
Ah, Susato-san, and that spark of wonder in your eyes. You can't wait to scour the shelves, can you? I get the impression you enjoy places like this.
Oh, yes, I don't know why, but seeing such a lot of things, I don't understand. It's a real thrill for me.
My dear fellows, let us not forget why we are here.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes.
We are calling on matters of business, not pleasure. And clearly Mr. Sholmes means business too, judging from the spark of fury in his eyes. Mr. Sholmes, sir. Welcome back. Did you hear that brazen welcome? Well, yes, we are potential customers after all. We are disgruntled customers, Mr. Naruhodo, and it is time to inform Mr. Winterbank of our ire. Come, the fight is afoot. Oh, that's a good character design. Look at this guy. He's fun. Oh, is he gonna get murdered? Naturally, you will recall this, which I retrieved from you some days ago. Yes? This second-rate fiddle is not my faithful instrument, Mr. Winterbank. The color of the wood is different. It has holes in it. It's not even the same size.
A wonderful summary of our observations, Mr. Sholmes.
Yeah, I'm very sorry, sir. How utterly unforgivable of me, and an inexcusable mistake for a pawnbroker. There's only one way to make amends. I shall have to take... Oh, God. Okay, he needs a more dramatic voice. I shall have to check my own life. I don't think that will be necessary, do you? If I may just say one thing before I pop off. Yes? It was you, sir, Mr. Sholmes, who took it upon himself to remove the item the other day, I believe. Sorry. He really kind of needs a British... But what the hell's a British storekeeper accent? As I recall, I entered the storeroom to fetch your violin when I heard... Ah, here it is. Yes. As I recall, I entered the storeroom to fetch your violin. As I recall, I entered the storeroom to fetch your violin when I heard... Oh, here it is. As I recall, I entered the storeroom to fetch your violin. As I recall, I entered the storeroom to fetch your violin. Yeah. As I recall, I entered the storeroom to fetch your violin when I heard, oh, here it is. You did. And when I turned to convert you, you had taken the viola and left, sir. However, there can be no doubt that the blame lies firmly at my own door for allowing you to leave. So I shall not grumble or grouse any longer. May this guilt die with me. No. Stop, my dear fellow. The fault is mine. Oh.
It would appear that the fight is over.
I do humbly apologize, Mr. Windybank. Evidently, my questionable disposition precipitated this tragedy. Well, you wouldn't be Mr. Herlock Sholmes without that questionable disposition, now would you? Haha, I do believe you may be right, sir. It's either laugh or cry, I suppose. You are, it must be said, one of my more challenging customers. I need to remind you of the peculiar collection of items you've brought through my door in the past.
Oh, peculiar items?
In the extreme, ma'am. For example, the unpublished manuscript of an eponymous work, the novels of Herlock Sholmes or some such.
Oh my, a new full-fledged novel? And unpublished? A story I've yet to read, you mean?
Forgive me.
Wait, before you die, you must tell me more.
Okay, so content warning for joking about suicide with a gun to your head? Okay. I'm going to need to put a content warning on the front of this episode, because that's a little... Yeah, that's okay. We're playing it for a laugh, clearly. Like, we're doing it for a joke, but... Okay.
I must know more. Tell me everything.
Wow, Sasada-san is really fired up now.
Is there really an unpublished story under this very roof?
Well, one day the gentleman here brought in an old metal chest, you see. I should like to entrust this to your care for a while, Mr. Windybank. Hey, for a chest like that, 1 shilling, sir. Not a farthing more. It houses something of very great value indeed. The latest manuscript, recounting the adventures of one Mr. Herlock Sholmes. I beg your pardon. A manuscript? You wish to deposit a manuscript? Indeed I do, for I am confident that it will be quite safe here. And that was that. As such, Mr. Sholmes' latest tale of otherworldly mystery lies dormant in my storeroom. Mr. Sholmes, is that really true? Do I sense that someone doesn't want to talk about this? I continue to pay your fee, do I not? Then kindly continue to store my belongings. Securely. Of course, sir, of course. They're safe and sound with me, I assure you, on my life. This is all very strange. Could you just not point the gun at your head, please? I wonder, could I ask you something? Yeah, a gentleman from the east, I see. Yes, that she will shoot. I suppose I could offer you 6 pence for it. Without wishing to offend, the tone is somewhat dull. Sorry? But for your splendid attire, ma'am. 5 guineas, no less. The colors are exquisite, the design exotic. Eastern artistry at its finest, may I say.
Oh my, 5 guineas, you say? How interesting.
Why do I feel like I've suffered some sort of defeat here? Well, actually, I was hoping to ask you about your business. I've heard it said that pawnbrokeries are used rather like banks here in London. Yes, sure, indeed. Many of my customers utilize the establishment as you describe. I appraise their items and offer them a proportional loan and 2 months of secure storage. If, in that time, they repay the original sum to me plus and the agreed interest, your items are happily returned.
But what happens if they don't pay you the money?
Then the items are offered for sale in my shop, as you can see on the shelves behind me.
So you never sell items before the 2 months have passed, then?
That's right, ma'am, that's right. Which means some considerable responsibility rests on my shoulders. Should a customer's precious belongings be lost, the only recompense for me is to end it all. The very idea, Mr. Windybank, is an absurdity. One should never talk of one's demise so casually. Yeah, thank you! Says the man who was telling us it was it was a good day to die only this morning. And let us not forget that I have already helped you take measures to ensure such a tragedy never occurs. Oh, what sorts of measures? I engineered a simple device which Mr. Windybank has installed here in his shop. I call it the Red-Handed Recorder. Is that not so, Mr. Windybank? What was that deep sigh about? What on earth is a red-handed recorder? Use your eyes, my dear fellow. There are two just below the ceiling.
I can see what appears to be a camera attached to some sort of timing device.
Very astute. It is indeed a camera, furnished with some 100 pieces of celluloid film. And every 30 minutes precisely, the camera automatically records the appearance of the shop. Here, I have an example I can show you. Ah yes, a print from the camera set to record the activity at the shop counter. I developed a special type of film so sensitive, it produces a crystal clear image even in darkness. Really? That's extraordinary.
Yes, you can clearly see the counter and the door behind it, look.
So you see, were someone to enter the premises with ill intent, his identity would be summarily exposed, so long as he entered and left in, within, half an hour.
But did you not say that the photographic prints were taken at 30-minute intervals?
Indeed, as you say, my dear madam.
Then what if the incident were to occur in between times?
One could only say that would be a cruel twist of fate. I must confess your devices have been giving me some cause for distress of late. I beg your pardon, Mr. Windybank. Surely they are anything but distressing. Reassuring is the word. It's the cost of the film, sir. You're most graciously placed not one, but two cameras in my shop after all. Which means I must pay for nigh 100 utterly useless prints every single day. I'm afraid the cost of the film will break me before I'm very much older. Nevertheless, a small price to pay to ensure the safety of my preferred pawnbrokery, no? My dear fellows, we verge on an age where safety and security come at a price. Oh, heaven help us! Now then, Mr. Sholmes, allow me to return your precious violin. Ah, the very thing. Thank you, Mr. Windybank. Perhaps this might mark the end of the peculiar items you try to pop, Because if anything were to happen to one of them, this would be the only answer. I really think you ought to stop waving that gun around. Someone could get hurt. Fear not. Sorry? I've only loaded a single bullet, so no one but myself could possibly be harmed. That's not really what I meant. Good day to you then, Mr. Windybank. It's been a pleasure as always, Mr. Sholmes. Is this going to be a Russian roulette? Is someone going to get shot in here? Okay, someone's going to get shot in here. I don't know if it's going to be Mr. Windybank. I hope not. And it's going to be the thing with the one bullet and pulling the triggers and the cameras with the intervals, and we're going to have to figure all that out. Okay. All right, that's going to be complicated.
So, Mr. Naruhodo, now we can explore at last.
There seems to be a little door hidden behind that curtain there. That leads to the storage room, where Mr. Windybank keeps items that are currently in pawn.
Ah, I see.
There's nothing of particular interest inside. I certainly wouldn't recommend any larcenous activity. Recommend it or not, it's not something I tend to do. There is but one key, and Mr. Winterbank keeps it in his pocket at all times. Before he sleeps, he places it into a small pot, which he slides under his pillow. How on earth do you know about that, Mr. Sholmes? I am a detective, sir. It is my business to know what others do not. I am frequently assailed by information that I neither care for nor wish to retain.
Mr. Sholmes, you are a wonder.
And the prime suspect of this pawnbroker he has ever burgled. Oh, is Sholmes gonna be the suspect? Oh my god. Look at that enormous ledger open on the counter there. Mr. Winterbank is, if nothing else, very particular about recording the items he accepts. He'd have to be, otherwise he'd get himself into all sorts of trouble. Which might explain the thing that catches my eye far more than the ledger. Yeah, the gun. This revolver here. Do not entertain even a single thought of pilfering an article here, my dear fellow. Huh? I assure you, Mr. Winterbank would not hesitate to draw that weapon with a speed belying his portly size.
Oh, you don't mean he'd...
Blow his brains out, indeed, in recompense for his blunder.
Oh my. But in any case, of course we would never do such a thing. How could you even suggest it?
Yeah, he's a little much, isn't he? Seriously, I'm not particularly squeamish about suicide jokes and stuff, but even I am like, whoa, that's a little casual.
Look at this. What could this lovely big shiny box be?
That, my dear madam, is a music box. Surely you have such things in your own country?
Oh my, yes, but I've certainly never seen one so large before.
Shall we listen a while? That's quite lovely.
Ah, what a sublime sound. It's like the music of angels.
I've never heard anything like it before in my life. This particular specimen is of the larger variety, commonly found in public houses and restaurants. There is a metal disc inside on which the notes to be played are recorded. Simply by replacing the disc with another, any music you care to imagine can be played.
My goodness, what a simply delightful machine.
Indeed, though their popularity has waned recently, with the development of the gramophone, of course.
Ah, science and technology advance at such an overwhelming pace. What an assortment of things there are on these shelves here. Crockery, footwear, clocks, and watches. Almost anything you care to imagine.
Those are forfeited items, offered for sale by the pawnbroker. What does that really mean, though? When you pawn, or colloquially pop, an item, the broker loans you money against its worth. He stores the item for an agreed period of time, after which the loan must be repaid. If not, he is free to display it in his shop for sale, at a price of his choosing. Oh yeah, now you've explained it, I'm noticing little price tags on everything. Of course, simply by paying the agreed interest on the loan, one can extend the period of safekeeping. So you may pawn that black garb of yours without fear, my dear fellow. My treasured university uniform? Never! It embodies my student spirit! Hats? No. The horse? No. Crockery, chest, anything? No.
Now, what do you suppose this rather enormous machine does?
It seems to have two little windows for looking through. Allow me to enlighten you, my dear fellows. What you are looking at is a stereoscope.
A stereoscope? Fascinating.
It is aptly named, I assure you. Look through the eyepieces and see for yourself.
Oh, I should be delighted to. Excuse me a moment while I just have a look.
Just before you do, there's something I should point out. My dear fellows, in order to see the image properly, stereoscopically, as it were, you will need to be cross-eyed. However, if that is beyond you, it is of little consequence today.
All right then, I'm going to try it. Mr. Naruhodo, you must see, at once.
All right then. So I need to be cross-eyed, like I'm trying to look at my own nose? Presumably this would be a 3DS gimmick. What the? I don't believe it. It's just a photographic print, but it seems like you can reach out and touch it. Yes, the sense of depth is startling, is it not? Stereoscopes are one of London's many fads. They are often found in little stalls in the park. People queue for hours to see them.
Why? Why are people meddling with such black magic?
It is no magic, my dear madam. It is, well, far too complicated to explain at present. We shall save this lesson for another day. I can explain it a little bit. Basically, it's a thing where you take two images from very slightly different angles, like use two cameras, basically. So you take images that are placed at a position that sort of mimics the human eye, and then if a human being were to look at that image and then like go cross-eyed and make the two images fade onto each other, you get an image that appears to the human brain as though it is three-dimensional, which is very clever.
Oh. Look at this. Whatever could it be used for?
I have no idea.
Ah. There's a small catch just here, look.
We're going to open it, aren't we? Are those opera glasses?
Oh my, that's amazing. It has some sort of spring-loaded mechanism.
Which we'll never manage to put back the way it was before. What are you two doing?
What? Us? Oh, nothing. No, nothing at all.
Whatever this device is, it seems to have a pair of little windows to look through. I feel as though I've seen something rather similar to this elsewhere.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, that's not a calendar you could easily miss, is it? 15th of April, today's date.
Yes, that's not for sale, I must point out. It's an Eastern-style page-a-day calendar. Every night at midnight, I tear off the front page to reveal the following day's date.
The perfect calendar for a tearaway fellow such as yourself, Mr. Windybank. And who was it who walked out of here with the wrong violin before?
Well, then, when a great storage period just passed without repayment, articles are forfeited, you see. So I have to keep a close eye on the date. It's something of a pawnbroker's obsession, you might say. Oh, yes, I can see you're very dedicated to your job. What? Only tuppence for it? That ain't fair, you know it. The article's barely worth a penny, mish. I cannot offer more.
I think we know who that is. Sounds like there's an argument brewing over by the counter.
Come on, that can't be right. Are you even at a butcher's, eh? I've seen all I need to see, young girl.
Yeah, we know who it is. Wait, don't we know? I'm sure I recognize her.
Oh, yes, it's the young lady from the Mr. McGilder's trial 2 months ago. Her name is Gina Lestrade, my lord. She's a chancer, earns her crust among large crowds, relieving people of their purses. What's commonly called a pickpocket. Gordon Bennett, you lot!
Gordon Bennett would also be rhyming slang. Don't know what kind.
Hello, Miss Lestrade. I hope you've been well. Hey, what? You remember the men then, do you?
Well, I remember being completely surrounded by smoke, that's for sure.
So, what are you doing in here? Down and out, like the rest of us? Nothing to eat? Come to pop that black weasel, sorry, coat, have you?
Oh, Weasel and Stoat coat. Right, I see. I think I got that one.
What is it about this black uniform that makes everyone comment on it?
Ah, good day. Unless I'm much mistaken. You would be the young pickpocket who stole our experimental smoke grenade launcher.
Shums.
So, you have something of value to pawn, do you? Allow me to see the article, and I shall negotiate with Mr. Windybank on your behalf.
Pull the other one. I need the help from some stuck-up day. Get out of my business. Go on. I'll make trouble for you.
As you wish, Miss Lestrade. I will happily remove myself from your presence. He's really done it. He's gone.
I'm sorry, but as I said, there's really just no room for negotiation here.
What is that thing he has in his hand? Some kind of metal disc? Oh, it's a little disc for the thing that plays the music. Oh.
Hey, you. Go on. Leave me alone.
Oh, Mr. Lestrade, just pretend we aren't here. We shan't be offended in the slightest. Sasada-san can really stand her ground when she wants to.
Whatever.
I like her design. It's a good design. Like, not to beat on a dead horse, except, yeah, definitely to beat on a dead horse. This character design has tons of femininity, but it's not relying on, like it's not relying on just making her attractive. Not that she's ugly or anything, but it's just like, it's a character design that's, okay, this is like a street urchin, a kid who's got her mind together, who likes to think on the fly, who's always carrying stuff around that she's filled. Like, so we've got the bag, we've got like the scarf around the neck to sort of protect the vulnerable area. We've got like the multiple, like the coat over the waistcoat over the shirt with like the suspenders showing, which is like a sort of overcomplicated, sort of slightly weird thing. We've got like the color coordination between the band around her hat and the scarf that she's wearing on her neck, like, which is all like just all very nice and cohesive, color-wise especially. She's really cohesive, like the green and the brown and the gold and the yellow, and then like with that makes that red scarf really pop on her. And she's still very feminine, even though she's dressed in like basically sort of gender neutral or more masculine clothing. Like, there's still a lot of femininity to her. Like, it's just a good character design. I like it. Somehow, I didn't really think you were the sort of person who'd use a pawnbroker, Miss Lestrade.
Yeah, well, I am, alright? I'm a Londoner, just like everyone else. Is that a problem, is it?
No, not at all. It's just that, well...
Oh, okay, I know what you're thinking. That thing probably don't even belong to her. Probably got under the dive, didn't she? Yeah, I can see it written all over your Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase face, yeah. Well, I might have been thinking something along those lines.
You're not going to deny it, Mr. Naruhodo?
All right, then I'm just going to come out and ask you straight. Do you pawn things that you steal from other people?
Well, I best to answer that, really. Suppose, sometimes. You're not going to deny it either, Mr. Lestrade. Well, this time, all right, I swear. That thing belongs to me.
The disc that Mr. Windybank is holding? Perhaps we should see what he has to say about all this. There you go, Naruhodo, getting yourself involved.
Mr. Windybank, what exactly is this metal disc that Mr. Lestrade has brought in? It seems to have hundreds of little tiny bumps on its surface.
Ah, this is a music disc, you see. For use inside a music box. In the music box?
What, you never know what a music box is? You used to into savvy, eh?
I know what a music box is. I've just never seen one of these discs before.
The small protrusions from the metal disc encode the tune to be played by the music box. You simply insert the disc and set the machine going, and beautiful music plays. It's so incredible. Tell us, what tune is on this disc? Well, I'm afraid I couldn't tell you that. There's so many different types of music box, you see. British-made, German, Swiss. I have no way of knowing which particular machine this disc was made for.
Ah, I see.
And that's it in a nutshell. I wouldn't have any customers for an item like this, even if the young lady forfeited it. Really, I'm already offering more than I should at a penny. That's a pack of lies. He told me he did. He said it was, well... He? Who? Whatever you mind, it's just ain't right, that's all. This worth good money, I know it is. Well then, you'll have to try your luck at another pawnbroker's, won't you? She's been in before, of course. This little tatterdemalion. I see. And brought some dubious article or other with her for every single time, I might add. Dubious? What are you trying to say? I'm an honest customer, me. So, is there something dubious about this disc she brought in today? Well, if only it were that simple. Sorry, what do you mean? What she actually brought in was a storage ticket. Ah, a storage ticket. So, Mr. Strahd has actually come to redeem an article from you today, is that right? Yeah, that's right. A girl like me's a lot of stuff what needs storing. Alright, yeah, that's definitely dubious. The article in question would have been forfeited at midnight tonight, but as she gave me the ticket for it and repaid both the loan and the interest, I was obliged to return the article to her. But what was the article? You tell us, Mr. Windybank. The little scamp is wearing it, ma'am. The bag? Oh, it's the overcoat that she redeemed. Oh. What? What's wrong with that? It fits, don't it? I mean, it's mine, so of course it does. So, what about the disc then? How does that come into all of this? Ah, the disc is something else. A new article to pawn, if the girl and I can agree a price. I'm confused. I thought you said that Mr. Strahd brought in a storage ticket today. Well, it's really quite simple. Yes, the child brought me a storage ticket, and the money ordered to it, as you say. For this heavy black coat which you returned to her care, as I understood it? That's right, yes. And rather unsurprisingly, as soon as the little ragamuffin put the thing on, she went rifling through the pockets. Oh, you mean... What? Did you notice her to stare at a lady? Ah, I see. So it came from the pocket of the overcoat, did it? If you mean this disc, then yes, exactly, ma'am. And she immediately tried to pawn it. For quite a high price as well. This is all rather suspicious, I think. Give up, I'm just trying to pawn something like anyone would. I'm sorry, I can't do better with Gina, I don't think. Like, this is about the best I can do. Mr. Strahd, may I ask who deposited the overcoat here in the first place? Well, me. It doesn't really appear to be your size. My old man, it's my old man's, isn't it? Is it, Mr. Strahd? Yeah, this is definitely all rather suspicious. Let's just let the kid survive. Out of my way, please. Oh, shit. Oh, I hate you already. I hate you immediately. Immediately, I don't like you. You are just a piece of shit. You're an asshole. I disdain you the moment I saw you. Oh, boy. Who's this picture postcard English gentleman? Good day to you, ladies. Gentlemen. What's your problem, eh? There is no problem as long as you remove yourself. I have a matter to discuss with the proprietor. And if you intend to make a problem of it, I shall see you outside, little girl, for the hiding you deserve. Fuck you. Look, ain't it obvious? I ain't done talking with me yet. If you ain't such a gent, you should know what to wait in line. Well, you are an impudent little brat, aren't you? As well as a pickpocket. I? Who are you? I don't know who I am. The question is, how do you not know who I am? You haven't the courtesy even to remember the faces of your victims, it seems. What? You mean, from you? Broker? Yes, sure. I believe this filthy pocket thief has just redeemed an article from you, no? Yes, the article in question belongs to me. I demand for it to be returned at once. Oh my. That's a lie. What are you trying to pull?
Give me back my overcoat, you wastrel. And needless to say, any music box discs too.
No, you can't have it. You just can't. It's me old man's. Oh, it was. Now it's mine. Goodness, Mr. Naruhodo. This is a very awkward situation.
Yeah. I think perhaps we should hear both sides of the story in a little more detail. Or just fucking kick that guy out. Fuck him. Fuck him. Piece of shit.
Mr. Strut, is what the gentleman is saying? What do you think? It's all lies, isn't it? Obviously. I swear my life, I ain't never laid eyes on that dandy before.
Let's hear it now, you little ragamuffin. You stole it, didn't you? That ticket you brought in here just now.
No, I swear it. I swear to God.
It was barely an hour ago. I was walking along the street minding my own business. No, the fuck you weren't. Fuck you. When this little guttling ran into me, I knew at once what had happened. I've been robbed yet again, I thought to myself. Those wretched pickpockets. Yet again? Oh, yes. As you can see, I'm a man of impeccable style. No, you're not! This isn't the first time I've been targeted by these backslum scoundrels. Now then, relinquish my overcoat.
Come along now, Mr. Stride. Give the good gentleman his coat back. If you're going to cause trouble, I shall have no choice but to call the police. Hold on. Why does anyone think it's me? Just look at this dandy cove. Do you think I'm the dodgy one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with her.
I'm sorry, but no one's going to believe you. Well, what about evidence? Eh? Where's your evidence that I've stolen something, eh? Come on, let's see it.
Oh, I have evidence, naturally.
You what? Evidence that the article Mr. Strad redeemed actually belongs to this gentleman. Of course, we need only consult Mr. Winterbank's ledger to know the truth. We'll be able to look up the name of the person who deposited the article in the first place.
Yes, brilliant!
Oh, I'm very sorry, but I'm afraid that won't be possible. Oh. I never ask customers' names. That's a strict policy of mine.
But why not?
Well now, as you can imagine, some of my customers have circumstances to consider. A great many of them prefer to maintain their anonymity. Yes, I see. But then, how can you know if an article belongs to the person asking to redeem it? Oh, it's quite simple. Good, sure. Might it trouble you for the watchword associated with the article in question?
Of course, it's... Professor.
Oh, is this Moriarty? Fuck him! Yes, that's right. And all the evidence we need. This gentleman is the rightful owner of the article, without doubt.
A watchword? Interesting. So, about these watchwords, Mr. Winterbank.
As I just explained, I never ask customers' names when they deposit items with me. There are many reasons why. Certain customers would like to keep their activities secret, he says, staring over at Herlock, who has his face in the machine.
That wasn't exactly a subtle glance at Mr. Sholmes now, was it?
Great detectives have no dark secrets, none at all. Yes, well, anyway, that's why I always ask for a watchword whenever I accept a new article. In many ways, it's like the secret combination of numbers used to unlock a vault. The date of deposit, a description, and a watchword uniquely identify each item. And of course, then I give the storage ticket to the customer. When someone comes to redeem something, I ask for the ticket and the watchword. And if that someone tells you the correct watchword, you return the article? That's right, sir. Yes. Just as soon as the requisite fee is paid.
And I have supplied you with the information you require already. But for the avoidance of doubt, the article in question is an overcoat deposited 2 months ago on 15 February. With a watchword of Professor.
All perfectly correct information, sir. But
Really, this is beyond a joke now. There's no further room for doubt. Ugh. Oh, I hate you. I hate you just to look at you. Excuse me, but who are you? Oh, shit, fuck. One would expect the Inquirer to introduce himself first. Though clearly, you're not British, so perhaps our ways are foreign to you. Oh, sorry, yes, we're from the Empire of Japan. We're studying here. Oh, yes, Japan. I've heard talk of the place. Oh, fuck you. Oh, I hate you. Oh. Oh, and the racism comes out. Its inhabitants live on some fiery brown-colored soup, dressed up with exotic spices. You might be thinking of somewhere else. And what was that theatrical gesticulation about? Perhaps. Anyway, if you're a gentleman, sir, you offer your own name first before inquiring after the name of another. Oh, of course, yes. I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a lawyer. Well, a student of law, really. My name's Satomi Kotoba. I'm now Mr. Naruhodo's assistant. I see. He's not offering his name back. My name is Benedict. Yes, Egged Benedict. Eggs Benedict, really? Eggs Benedict. Okay, let me just look up what eggs, like, because I can't remember how you cook that. Because isn't that when you... Yeah, like that's poached egg. Poached. Does that mean he's the thief? Like, is that the wordplay here? It's presumably it's a fake name. My name is Benedict. Yes, Egged Benedict, not Benedict Bramble Patch. Enchanté. He's so refined in how he holds himself and how he speaks, but that name is suspicious. Now, to the matter at hand. Oh my god. My overcoat! Return it at once! To someone with the style to carry it off. Every move he makes, every breath he talks, I can't start watching him. Okay. Not gonna comment on it, just gonna move on. That looks terrible on you, Jesus Christ. With that fucking hat? Oh god. Sure, let that be an end to the matter. And thank you for the costume, Mr. Eggert Benedict, sure. No, I just want to punch him. With such reasonable rates of interest, I may even decide to come back. This is what I hate, grown-ups. Just cause I'm a diver, everyone thinks that makes me a liar. And the contents of the coat pockets, if you please, broker. But of course, sure. Here's the disc for you. Just this one? Pardon, sure. I was expecting another. That is, I deposited another. Another disc? Oh dear. I regret to inform you, sir, that what was deposited with me was merely the overcoat. The disc happened to be in one of the pockets, but I was completely unaware of it until now. So, gutterling, you're hiding more of what's rightfully mine, are you? Says you, I didn't know nothing about it. Very well. Then I shall bid you farewell. Say goodbye to style. I said goodbye to style the moment you fucking walked in. What, man, that disc is mine. Yeah, well, what do you think you're doing, you little tramp? You've drawn blood, you filthy animal. Oh my, yes, there's blood on the disc. It's because of all those sharp little bumps. The man must have scratched his finger on him. I thought it first, alright? I mean, it belonged to me, old man. So you're not having it? Or you take it. Me? If I hang on to it, I'll have it off me again. So you keep hold of it. Mr. Stride, eh? Why is this disc so important to her? You there in the black livery. Let's just, Oh, what do we have here? For McGilded.
Oh, there's a little scrap of paper stuck onto the reverse side of the disc. Look. And a scribbled word or two. It looks like somebody's name. For McGilded.
McGilded? It couldn't be.
But it is, Mr. Naruhodo. A name I shall never forget as long as I live.
So, okay. So, McGilded told her to go and collect that overcoat. He deposited it here. That guy is probably the dude who killed McGilded. But why? Why is his name on this?
Look at all those little bumps in the disc. They're so tiny. Yes, the protrusions are called pins, and they pluck at the teeth of the comb to make notes. And just on the edge, there's a small amount of blood.
Yeah, the blood of the mysterious Eggard Benedict.
When Mr. Strahd tried to grab the disc from...
Okay, so you're just restating information that we already know. Fair enough. Hand that disc to me at once, please.
No, don't! He's lying. Grown-ups are all liars.
What do I do now? How am I going to resolve this? I think we just leave. Hey, Sholmes, do you wanna... Mr. Sholmes? What are you examining with such keen interest there? As you enjoy a bar of caramel, I see. So, you found me, at last, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry? After that young pickpocket sent me on my way, I was forced to lurk in the shadows. Cruelly ostracized, as the rest of you partook in the jovial atmosphere of fellowship. I had nothing to occupy my mind, but was too ashamed to let society see what my downfall had done to me. So, feigning mock interest, I pretended to examine the tedious trinkets in this desolate place. Whilst, as you shrewdly observed, gnawing on the only friend I have left, this 7% solution of caramel. Pray, do you claim to understand the depths of my despair, Mr. Naruhodo? But how could you? I was so lonely, so desperately lonely. Then why on earth didn't you just rejoin the conversation? Things have gone from bad to worse here, you know. Yes, I overheard much of your conversation. Or rather, in my craving for human contact, my ears devoured every word that was uttered. You really were sad, weren't you?
Poor Mr. Sholmes, I feel simply awful for you.
It would seem that my inferences are correct.
Oh, surely you're not about to tell us that you've solved the entire case once again?
My dear madam, sometimes I wonder, were my genius for deduction to be commoditized, how much could I pawn it for? It seems Mr. Sholmes has had another one of his flashes of inspiration. But who knows, it'll help us resolve the situation between Mr. Strahd and the mysterious gentleman. What's the right thing to do here? Listen to it, obviously! Maybe I should have talked to the two others first, but, you know, I didn't want to see this. Well, Mr. Strahd, it would appear you find yourself in something of a predicament.
Where you blue blazes have you been, eh?
Pun.
One lady's in trouble and two gents supposed to be there to help. Straight away, not an hour later.
Harsh. And who, pray tell, are you? Mr. Eggard Benedict, you have, in my eyes, a veritably encyclopedic array of curiosities about your person. Nevertheless, there are two immovable conclusions I have drawn. I beg your pardon? The first is this. The true reason for your visit to this pawnbrokery today is something you have not yet revealed. And the second is this. A considerable crime is in contemplation, one you will orchestrate with intent to steal a vast sum of money. Well, Mr. Benedict, what say you to my deductions? How?
He's turned white as a hard-boiled egg. It would seem that once again, Mr. Sholmes has made a flawless deduction. A flawless deduction, rather. Just who do you think you are, sir? Ah, yes, as I hoped. That is precisely the pained expression I was looking for. So, shall we begin? The time has come for yet another of Herlock Sholmes's logic and reasoning spectaculars. First of all, we must ask ourselves on what business you ventured to this pawnbrokery today. You claim to have followed this pickpocket here, having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. What do you have in your hand there, sir? As revealed by that which you hold in your hand, yes, what brought you to this shop in the first place is the staff recruitment flyer. The piece of paper in your hand is a staff wanted advertisement from this very shop. Yet, even the most unobservant would soon realize that a man of your appearance has no need of such employ. In other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. The cane, which you unwittingly clutch to your person, exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What does it say? AG? What a rot! I've had this cane for years! The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the missing ferrule. It's the name on it, you dumbass! The end of any walking cane would be terminated with a metal ferrule to protect the wooden tip. And yet, detailed analysis shows the wooden tip of the stick to be utterly bare. Therefore, there's only one conclusion. The rod that you hold in your hand, which appears to be a walking cane, is in fact no cane at all. You recoil, sir. Is something wrong? And in your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer of the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle, which you evidently would like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle, you see. Nope. From the moment I saw it, my suspicions were aroused. What walking cane demands such a stout handle, mused I. But of course, as I said, this is no walking cane. No, that rod is the broken handle of a shovel. What? Are you insane? And now, having determined this undeniable truth, the conclusion is clear. Your true motive for coming here was to take employment at this establishment, to excavate the ground beneath the premises. What a calculated crime you have conceived, sir. A wickedly calculated crime. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For we must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, intend to excavate the ground beneath this pawnbrokery with a broken shovel? What on earth do you propose I can expect to find there? Some long-forgotten treasure, I suppose. Say, for such a fanciful theory, what possible reason could I have to do as you say? Oh, but there is ample reason. As you are only well too aware, Mr. Benedict. Ah, and your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. What? Let us consider what would motivate a man to infiltrate a shop such as this and covertly dig beneath the floor. The answer is revealed by the council note on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. This letter gives notice of public works to be carried out in the local area.
and according to the enclosed plan of the upcoming sewerage works. Beneath this shop runs a sewer that adjoins another, one that runs under the bank on the opposite side of the road. This madness has entered the sewers. This madness has entered the sewers now, has it? By excavating the ground beneath our feet, you would gain access to the waterway that flows in very close proximity to the great vault of the financial institution opposite. In summary, sir, you devised a master plan to pull off an elaborate bank robbery by dint of the underground tunnels. Master plan? Which brings us, at last, to the final chapter of this lurid scheme. With what plunder did the thief hope to make off from the underground vault of the bank? Are you quite serious? Having consulted with Scotland Yard some days ago, I happen to know the answer. But naturally, the answer is no secret to you, is it, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, this picture postcard tells us all we need to know. A postcard of the Great Exhibition? I'm afraid you've quite lost me. Currently in the final stages of preparation, the Great Exhibition will soon be underway. And the government has provided extra funds to complete its centerpiece, the Crystal Tower. Funds that currently sit in the vaults of the bank on the opposite side of the road. Pardon? Yes, the considerable crime you've been contemplating is the theft of that which sits in the vault of that bank, the special reserve funds for the Great Exhibition. Of course, that is top secret police information, so keep it under your hat, please.
Let's course correct that one a little bit.
Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this pawnbroking puzzle.
Mr. Sholmes.
Well, Mr. Naruhodo, an impressively upbeat deduction for a detective racked with loneliness, do you not agree?
Was it true what you said about the bank over the road and what it has in its vault?
Indeed, though few know of its existence, it is one of the government's most closely guarded secrets, which
You just blurted out in the middle of a pawnbroker, okay.
Gregson told me in the strictest confidence.
But you just announced it to everyone here, rather loudly in fact.
Ah,
and if it's such a big secret, how would Mr. Benedict have come to find out about it?
there can be but one explanation for that. Clearly, it is because the man is a criminal.
But what if he didn't know anything about the money in the vault? If he's a criminal, as you said, then buying a brand new shovel is sure to be the first thing he does now that you've revealed the secret.
Oh.
Or if he doesn't, maybe Mr. Winterbank will. He already has plenty of shovels here, after all.
Oh, my life, I assure you, I'm not so unscrupulous.
Well, hopefully this has taught you a valuable lesson. Sensitive information must be handled with the utmost of care. One can never be sure that someone privy to secrets won't disclose them, and once the word is out, it is out.
Perhaps I'll think twice before confiding in you next time, Mr. Sholmes.
An excellent idea, Mr. Naruhodo. An excellent idea.
Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, you know what to do, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's listen to that great deduction again and see if we can massage it into shape. Very well then, let us start once more from the beginning. Of Herlock Sholmes' magnificent logic and reasoning spectacular. First of all, we must ask ourselves on what business you ventured to this pawnbrokery today. You claim to have followed this pickpocket here, having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. As revealed by that which you hold in your hand. Yes, what brought you to this shop in the first place is a staff recruitment floor. So, by Mr. Sholmes' reasoning, Mr. Benedict came here in order to apply for a job so he could dig down through the floor. Yes, in an attempt to tunnel into the sewers to gain access to the money in the vault of the bank across the road. But he wouldn't get very far with a broken shovel, would he? No, I think it's fair to say his motives lie elsewhere. The question is, where? What did bring Mr. Benedict here at this particular point in time? Well, that sketch of Miss Lestrade would do. Oh, look at all the scribbled notes on the back of the flyer here. I don't believe it. What is it? Listen to what it says. Name, Gina Lestrade, height 5'2". Green cap, scruffy waistcoat, grubby white shirt, blue satchel, racket. It's a detailed description of Miss Lestrade. Goodness. There's even a sketch of her, hat and all. Although if he showed it to her, she'd fire that smoke grenade launcher in his face for sure. And look, the details of the shop have been written down here too. Winterbank's Pawnbrokery, Baker Street, redemption deadline 15th April. Which is today's date. Why would Mr. Benedict have all the information scrawled on the back of that piece of paper? And why would he just let you wander around to see it?
Take that!
Yeah, what brought you to this shop in the first place is the info about Miss Lestrade. Quite so, my dear fellow. It would appear that the writing and sketch on the reverse of the flyer pertain to the pickpocket, Miss Lestrade, and to Mr. Windybank's pawnbrokery here. You originally told us that you had merely given chase after Miss Lestrade stole the redemption ticket from you. But that, sir, is a thinly veiled lie. It is the information on the back of the flyer that led you here today, by which I mean here to Windybank's pawnbrokery, and today, the redemption deadline of that overcoat. So, you waited outside for the young girl matching the description you have written down to arrive. Well, and you have gone to some lengths to hide the reason for your pursuit of Miss Lestrade. In other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. The cane, which you unwittingly clutch to your person, exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What utter rot! I've had this cane for years! The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the missing ferrule. What's a ferrule? It's the metal cap commonly found on the end of a cane, Mr. Naruhodo. Ah, the bit that makes the nice clacking sound on the pavement. Yes, exactly. And Mr. Sholmes is right. It appears to be missing on this cane. But it doesn't actually look broken, does it? No, it doesn't, though the gentleman certainly did recall that Mr. Sholmes identified the cane as suspicious. In other words, there's some secret about the cane that Mr. Benedict would rather we don't know. As stylish as it is, no doubt is, I don't think this white top hat suits the man, do you? No, not at all. The more I look at it, the more something strikes me as suspicious about it. I think perhaps it's not so much that it strikes you as suspicious, but rather that the hat is just striking. I suppose you're probably right. Perhaps the hat isn't what we're looking for. They're so kind, like, to just, like, hang out and wait and hold a pose while we, like, just kind of scan them over. Figure out how they're doing, what's going on with them. Hi, y'all. How's it hanging with you, Mr. Benedict? No, not the hat. God damn it. Look here, Mrs. Sato. There's some letters on the handle. Ah, yes. Those must be initials, I think. In the West, it's customary for people to engrave their belongings with the first letters of their name. So, Herlock Sholmes would be HS, you mean? That's right. And the initials on this cane, obviously. Oh,
A.G.? Why does it feel as though that's not quite right? Yes, and I'm pretty sure that that's... Okay, yeah, so that's the only thing we can select. It's 'cause the cane isn't his. Or 'cause the cane... reveals something. I don't know, who knows. But... The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the initialing. A most astute observation, wouldn't you say, Mr. Eggert Benedict? We are led to believe, sir, that your initials are E.B. Yet in a most possessive manner, you have in your grasp a cane bearing the initials A.G. An incontrovertible contradiction indeed, would you not agree? You're wrong! This cane isn't... You said before that you'd had that cane for years. So don't try to tell us that you just borrowed it from a friend or found it in the park. In short, though you hold yourself to be a gentleman, you have withheld your true name. You recoiled, sir. Is something wrong? And in your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer of the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle, which you evidently would like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle. Let's consider the bare bones of what happened here. Mr. Lestrade redeemed that fine-looking overcoat, and now a mysterious man has appeared introducing himself with a fake name and claiming that the overcoat belongs to him. But we know that he actually identified Mr. Lestrade from a written description, which suggests that everything else he told you isn't true. So what we need to do here is somehow prove that the overcoat cannot possibly belong to him. I would say that that little split seam there, that little split seam that you got going on there is pretty compelling evidence that that coat weren't meant to fit you. Oh, the seam on the shoulder there is coming apart. Look.
So it is.
Do you know, a moment ago when Mr. Benedict was surprised by something that was said, I thought I heard him make a rather strange noise. It sounded like a tiny growl. But now I think it was probably the sound of the seam ripping open.
If you look closely, it does seem to be a very tight fit. The sleeves are stretched to bursting, and he wouldn't have a hope of fastening it at the front. If he were to run around in it, I'm sure the whole thing would fall apart.
That I'd like to see.
Sorry?
So how can we make Mr. Benedict run around?
Oh, she's really giving this some thought.
It's not your size!
The split seam, which you evidently would like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle, you see. But yes, because the overcoat is rather obviously a poor fit. Having forced it over your broad shoulders, the seam is already breaking apart. My suspicions were aroused from the outset. When you so boldly lied about your name, and so boldly waylaid this pickpocket. This catalog of untruths have all been for one very specific purpose. To steal the article that the young girl redeemed from Mr. Windybank. But what really irks me is this. The considerable crime I initially imagined has been considerably curtailed. Yeah, sorry, Sherlock. Herlock, whatever. I'll just fucking call him Sherlock sometimes. I'll just do it. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For we must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, decide to wheeze a filch some toddler... Designed a wheeze. Oh, a wheeze, a joke. Designed a wheeze to filch some tawdry article of ponage. Have you forgotten that I redeemed the article in the proper manner using the watchword? Had I not been the one to deposit it in the first place? How
could I possibly have known the relevant details, n'est-ce
Oh, but the watchword can be discovered. As you are only too well aware, Mr. Benedict. Ah, and your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped.
What?
Let us consider how one might come to learn a secret watchword relating to the pawn property of another. The method is revealed by the council notice on the counter, to which your eyes were never...
The direction of the deduction must change rather dramatically now, I think.
Yeah, no more talk of tunneling into the sewers.
Which is a pity, because it all sounded rather exciting.
Anyway, you can't deny that this mysterious gentleman did know the watchword.
Yes, Professor. If you didn't know that word, Mr. Winterbank would never allow you to redeem the article.
Or, looking at it another way, if you did know that word, Mr. Winterbank would allow you to redeem the article whether it was yours or not. So the question is, could this gentleman have found the watchword out somehow? Well... Look at this, Mr. Sato.
Ah, it appears to be a memo that Mr. Winterbank has scribbled to himself.
Let's see, what does it say? Oh, Professor. Mr. Winterbank must make a note of the watchwords the customers give him right before their eyes. And in alarmingly clear script as well.
Oh dear, I don't know what to look at. Who knows what other secrets I might see?
Yeah. Adoy. The method is revealed by the notelet on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. Yes, the broker here follows the same procedure whenever a customer comes to redeem an article. He asks the customer for the watchword and notes down the response uttered on a notelet he has to hand. Then he consults his ledger and confirms whether or not the watchword matches that of the article in question.
I would expect nothing less of a diligent pawnbroker.
But his diligence clearly has its disadvantages.
What are you talking about?
It is increasingly apparent that you were present in this shop before your accusation against Mr. Strahd. In all likelihood, you followed her inside and then observed her talking to Mr. Winterbank.
How did we not see either of these people? How did we not see him, especially?
When the diligent broker make note of the watchword, as is his common practice, you observed him writing the word Professor on the notelet beside the ledger. And that, sir, was the master plan you devised to steal the pawned article from the young Mr. Strahd.
Master plan?
Which brings us at last to the final chapter of this lurid scheme. Why would you go to such lengths to redeem that particular article from this pawnbroker?
Are you quite serious?
For an ill-fitting overcoat hardly seems to justify the effort, much less a worthless music box disc. But naturally, you had very good reason to make them yours, didn't you, Mr. Benedict?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, this picture postcard tells us all. The articles we're talking about are the overcoat and the music box disc that was in one of the pockets.
Which, according to Mr. Winterbank, isn't even worth a penny.
And yet, this man went to such lengths to steal them. Why?
I wonder if perhaps we already have the evidence we need to explain it, Mr. Naruhodo.
Could we? Really? I'd better have a thorough look. You see, this music box disc tells us all we need to know.
What's that on the back?
It reads, "For McGilded." Ah, Mr. Magnus McGilded, the unfortunate philanthropist who perished in curious circumstances at the Old Bailey 2 months ago. A prominent man in London, though his loan-mongering demonstrated a distinct lack of scruples. So, you're an associate of his, are you? Or perhaps a subordinate. Mr. McGilded was a man of unusually small stature. In fact, he was precisely the right size for that overcoat you've squeezed yourself into. Your true identity remains shrouded in mystery, Mr. Egbert Benedict. Or Eggert. But the final conclusion here is crystal clear. The reason you came to this pawnbrokery today was to retrieve an article left behind by the late Magnus McGilded. Oh! You're gonna tear that coat even more, you know. Dickhead. Well, well, Mr. Magnus McGilded. Not a name I expected to hear in these circumstances.
Mr. Sholmes, I'm afraid there's something very troubling in my mind.
Pray tell, Mr. Sato.
Well, according to what Mr. Winterbank told us earlier, today was the final day on which the coat could have been redeemed, was it not?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Today would be precisely 2 months since it was first deposited.
Well, today's 15th April, so 2 months ago today
would have been 15th February, sure. That's right. It's all carefully recorded in my ledger. Deposited at 10:30 p.m., I see.
What? But that suggests... Yes, 15th February is precisely the day on which the omnibus murder took place. And 10:30 in the evening is precisely the time at which the terrible events were unfolding.
Suggestive is not the word. It would seem the matter is entirely beyond coincidence.
You are, of course, at liberty to make whatever outlandish deductions you choose. However,
I must insist you hand over the music box disc now. It would be a terrible shame for you to return to your native land in a box.
ugh, what do I do?
No. There's some things a man must protect at all costs. This may well be one of those things.
Then again, it may not. Mr. Windybank? This is my shop. I can't allow any harm to come to my customers. If that were to happen, I should have to take my own life. Mr. Windybank, no!
Alright, that's enough, says...
Alright, that's enough.
Inspector Gregson. Inspector?
It's right, sunshine. The alarm was raised on one of our dedicated emergency lines. So we got there as fast as we could. Now, what's all this about, eh? Oh, praise be, you're here at last. It was moments away from forfeiting my own life in my very own establishment.
It would seem you have the upper hand. Get rid of that coat now, dickhead.
Right, you lot have got some explaining to do. I don't appreciate being bothered with some petty argy-bargy.
Petty? Mr. Winterbank very nearly met with his end.
Yeah, by his own gun, as far as I can tell.
Oh dear.
And the whole of Britain could meet with his end. If I don't get to the bottom of the case I'm supposed to be working on.
What? What on earth is the case, Inspector? Spare no detail, Gregson.
I might have said a little too much. No matter, it's nothing to do with you lot. Anyway, sir, you're gonna have to come with me down to the station.
But of course, Inspector.
What? It's getting away! Get after him, let's. Whistle the beat officer too. Sir! There's been a spotted thefts of pawn shops around here recently. So we fit emergency buttons underneath their counters for brokers to let us know when there's trouble.
Oh, Inspector, I was very worried there for a while. Very worried indeed.
Now then, Mr. Permanently Morning.
Oh, yes?
I'll be taking whatever is of McGildy's down to the yard, thank you very much. So hand it over.
Oh, yes, of course.
No, don't give it to him. It's mine, that is. Mine. I'm sorry, miss. Boy, anything belonging to Mr. McGill, it's just been taken in as evidence now.
As evidence? If the police demand something as evidence, my dear fellow, you have no choice but to capitulate. Which is one way that the police likes to steal from the citizens of a country. A lot. In the US, you may hear of civil asset forfeiture, which is basically the police can just say, oh, well, we've determined that this may be evidence in a crime, so whoop, they'll just take it. Like, if they find money on you, if they, like, want to get your car, if they want to grab your stereo, they can take anything they fucking want if they just say, oh, well, we have reasonable cause to believe that it's evidence of a crime, so whoop. It's a little more complicated than that in a few ways, but, like, basically the police just steal from people. They steal so much fucking shit. And it's much the same in other countries as well, especially, like, if you're a sex worker. And, like, if there's, for example, here in Scandinavia, we have what's called the Nordic model, which doesn't criminalize selling sex. Like, that's theoretically legal, but it criminalizes the purchase of sex, which means that the proceeds from, like, if someone who does sex work has proceeds from doing sex work, the police can confiscate that as evidence of the crime of purchasing sex work on the behalf of the John, of the client. And they do. They do that a lot. They confiscate a lot of money from people who do sex work. Pretty indiscriminately, and there's very few recourses for sex workers to get that money back. Especially if they are, like, if they are marginalized people already, like, especially if they're trans, if they are immigrants, if they, like, so yeah, if the police demands something as evidence, the state will back that demand with violence, and you can be arrested for not complying with that demand, and you can be thrown in jail, and they can just steal your shit. They can just take it from you. They can just commit burglary right in front of your fucking face, and you have no choice but to comply, or they will throw you in jail. So that's fun. It's all yours, Inspector. And so, we handed Mr. McGilda's disc over to Inspector Gregson, and were summarily turfed out of the shop and onto the street. What do we have here? A natural cutoff point to end the episode. Well, don't mind if I do. If you've enjoyed hanging out in the world of Great Ace Attorney with me, you can hit the like, comment, and or subscribe buttons down below in whatever combination takes your fancy, and it will let you know when new episodes are going up on the channel. It's also helpful to me for algorithm reasons, so, you know, in case you want to do that. If you want to see more Great Ace Attorney right now, there's a non-zero chance that there may be some available, because members on this channel get early access to episodes as I record them, rather than having to wait for me to release them. So if you want that, memberships are available for like $1 a month. I also have a Patreon, a merchandise store, and a tip jar that all helps me pay my rent, but if you're not in a position to be able to, or you just don't want to use any of them, you absolutely do not have to. Thank you very much for watching. Remember still to wear a mask and wash your hands. Take vaccines. We'll have to take a few, I think, before this is all over, before the world is normal again, if it ever is. And try to act with solidarity towards those who have less than yourself.